Hi there, Jim McCotter here with Christian Nations Today. And the topic is Colin Kaepernick, American flag, and quote, oppression and injustice. And the verse for this is 1 Peter 2:17. 1 Peter 2:17 says, honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, and honor the king. In a nation with a king, the king would typically have the greatest civil authority. In America, with representative government, quote, we the people, end quote, have the greatest civil authority. All our civil authorities are authorized by we the people of America, and most of them reauthorized by us every 2 years. Therefore, anyone who will not honor our American flag does not honor us, we the people, and what we stand for in our Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now that brings us to Colin Kaepernick, the San Francisco second-string 49er quarterback, who will not stand in honor of our American flag and what it represents, we the people, and our Declaration of Independence, and our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which we are pursuing. Kaepernick said this, and I quote, it's not a protest against America, it's a protest against oppression and injustice and the equality that's not being given to all people. And Kaepernick's parents, when asked about it, will say nothing. It's obviously Kaepernick's parents didn't teach their son anything about our country. Our American flag, Old Glory, was established by Congress in 1777, and it was not established to represent oppression and injustice, but in honor of we the people and our Declaration of Independence for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mr. Kaepernick, since your parents didn't teach you much, let me give you a quick lesson about flags. The German swastika flag, representing the German Nazi Party, it represents oppression and injustice. The Black Panther Party flag, it represents oppression and injustice. The Communist Party flag, it represents oppression and injustice. But our Old Glory, the American flag, represents the greatest liberating nation in the world ever. There's no nation on earth that has ever sacrificed itself and its people to free and liberate other people and nations around the world more than America and her people, which Old Glory represents. Mr. Kaepernick, I too personally sacrificed 2 years of my life in our military helping free people in another country who were truly being oppressed and treated unjustly, something that you really know nothing about. The American flag represents me and millions of other Americans who have lost their lives for the sake of others. Kaepernick, who have you given your life up for? Kaepernick, I see your parents taught you real well. Since you're so concerned about some in our country who do not represent what our flag stands for, that is the Declaration of Independence and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I suggest you poor oppressed boy that you give back your $114 million contract. That's right, your $114 million contract as a second-string football player who just sits on a bench every game, and go out and really fight for oppression and injustice in our country, like 99% of all our good police officers are doing today in risking their lives in every city in America. And don't worry about losing your $114 million contract, Kaepernick, because as a police officer, for risking your life every day, you'll earn an average whopping of $27.05 an hour. Then, Kaepernick, we'll listen to you. Otherwise, you ungrateful American degenerate, you deserve to be fired. Now, speaking of being fired, it's really not Kaepernick that every patriotic American should really be disgusted with, but outrage should be leveled against Kaepernicker's employer, who pays Kaepernicker $114 million to use his employment to publicly denounce America. Of course, I know those who cheer Kaepernick on by saying it's his constitutional right, but it's also, employer, your constitutional right to fire this spoiled second-string quarterback and let him go out and protest all day long on his own time. In fact, he can then even move to any one of his wonderful utopia countries where he can protest all he wants until they cut off his head. I have a lot more I want to say about this. Tomorrow I'm not going to be talking so much about Kaepernick, but rather about who are the real culprit people of disgust. Number one, Obama, who supports, quote unquote, Kaepernick, who, by the way, also needs a history lesson about his own revisionist Ivy League history understanding. And number two, more about Kaepernick's employers. And number three, last but not least, all the degenerate, unpatriotic Americans who sit on their thumbs and say nothing and do nothing to help preserve what most of their forefathers gave their lives for, what the American flag actually represents. The least oppressive and most just nation on earth. But we are always one generation from losing everything, and as Ronald Reagan once said, we will either be one nation under God or we will be one nation under. I'll see you tomorrow.